having a chance to sit down with IHA's General Manager, Darcy Hodge. Darcy, thanks for joining me this fine, beautiful day. A little bit of sunshine I see as you're squinting into the sunlight.
Yeah, she's a pretty nice day out in Calgary right now.
So you're just in Calgary right now. Chinook winds, if you're familiar with geography in Calgary. A little bit of snow still falling, but it melts in the afternoon, correct?
Yeah, almost last 3-4 days we've had an accumulation almost every day, and today it's getting pretty bare. I believe by tomorrow's warmth, that'll be rolling in with the winds. My backyard will probably be all grass.
So let's talk a little hockey. You've been involved with IHA for almost 4 years, or 4 years now. Explain to me, or give us a little bit of a description of how the school has been over the 4 years since you've been involved.
Yes, it's been an interesting little venture with Fred Vossar, the owner of IHA. I was a parent who had his son here for 1 year prior to them asking me to come on board. And the changes have been fairly significant. We from an operational standpoint, the hockey is what the hockey is, but from an operational standpoint, from an educational standpoint, we have seen a lot of great leaps and bounds in the right direction. We used to be an online schooling system working with Calgary Board of Education. I guess as of right now, it's probably, our students would have still been doing really well. Yeah. But this year we joined forces with the National Sports School, which is also based at the Winsport facility in Calgary.
Okay.
And that put our boys back into a regular classroom, regular teachers. There still is an online component, which when we travel, it allows them to stay on their studies. When we go on the road, our buses have Wi-Fi, and our hotel rooms will normally take out the breakfast nook or get a boardroom and put the boys into an educational system at that point in time. So the leaps and bounds from that standpoint have been excellent. The reviews that we got this year from our survey to the parents and the kids was very positive from an educational standpoint, very positive from an operational standpoint of the academy as well. We were an audited program this year from Hockey Alberta, and between their interviews of the kids, of the athletes, between their interviews of the school, of the coaches, myself, the ownership group, fairly positive. We do have a few things that we're going to look at fixing again this upcoming season, but it was a relatively positive report card from both our parents, our students, and then thirdly, our Hockey Alberta.
Tell me about that transition as a student athlete going back into the classrooms and, having to face, real life classrooms again, as opposed to learning online. That's got to be a transition going both ways. And like you mentioned, currently in today's scenario, how effective has that been for the students to maintain an academic strength while playing hockey?
Well, the nice thing about how the program we work with, which is the National Sports School, is they're a public school board or a part of a public school system based throughout the Calgary Board of Education. So, but there's only like 200 kids in a grade 9 to 12. And everybody there is an athlete. I believe it's 39 different sports that are represented in this school structure. And what's really nice about how our school system works, as opposed to a typical Calgary high school of 2,000 kids or whatever it may be, is our classrooms are very small. Like our classes are 18, 20 kids. Most of the athletes travel for their chosen sport. For as much as we travel, as much as our league, as much as Hockey Canada, Hockey Alberta, tries to watch how much we travel and how much school we miss, in the National Sports School, we're actually one of the lowest traveling program that they have. There's equestrian riders that when they go on their little South Swing, they're gone for 7-8 weeks. So the teachers at this school are very structured towards high-level athletes trying to perfect their craft, whatever their craft may be. Gymnastics, golf, baseball, equestrian riding, hockey. So they're very understanding of our travel. They're very understanding of testing and obviously our provincial diplomas. There's nothing you can do about that. They're written when they're written, but otherwise they're really good at working with the athletes to make sure that they don't get behind, to make sure that they don't falter with their studies. Now, our relationship with the National Sports School, because we are in the same structure, is very close. I have a daily chat with the principal. I'm talking to the teachers every 2 to 3 days. If there's issues that happen in the classroom, I'm still called down to the principal office to talk to them about what's going on. But then, because, a lot of times I could sit back and just say, well, it's a school thing. You guys deal with it. But it's not a school thing. The kids that we're trying to raise, and it's not just our program, but my program specifically, we're trying to make the kids better people. We're trying to make sure that they integrate into society when it actually gets to that point. We're trying to make them accountable for their actions. So, yeah, the mean hockey guy has to come in and say, okay, you know what? You're behind in your social studies, so today you don't get to practice. You're going to go sit with your teacher back at NSS, and you're going to figure out how this gets caught up. You'll have X amount of days to get caught up. In that time, you will not practice. You will not be in our dryland training system, and consequently, you might not be on the ice for games if we're not caught up. That's if I know, right? Some kids are really good at hiding it. Some don't. Teachers kind of they sweet talk their teachers into not telling us. But if we are aware of it, we make time out of the athlete's life to make sure he gets caught up in school. Because as I tell the parents, as I tell the kids, the number of these athletes that are going to end up making a living in the world of hockey is questionable, is low to begin with. And it's to get them prepared. It's to get, excuse me, it's to get them to move on. My job isn't to get them to the NHL. My job's not to get them to college hockey. My job is to put them into juniors. Well, out of the junior coaches that I know, and the level of travel that they handle, and now you're dealing with 16-year-olds to 20-year-olds, so your age gap, you got some of the boys that are going out to the nightclubs, and you got other ones that have to go to the movies because they're not old enough. And it's how do you deal with integrating all of those different avenues. And I'd like to think that the way the Canadian Sports School Hockey League is, the way our hockey academies operate, we prepare them the best for that. Going into the college route later on in life, being able, if they are fortunate enough to solidify an NCAA scholarship, or even a regional, trade, a SAIT or a NAIT or a U of C or a U of A, there's a level of how do you time management, how do you multitask, all of that. And I think the way our programs are set up, it does that. The kids that went from the tutorial of a classroom, so we had a classroom scenario set up when they were doing the online system, in which we employed 3 tutors to be in amongst the class with the kids. So it's not like they were totally on their own, but they were, they're basically self-teaching. So if they were intelligent kids, they can move ahead really quickly and continue on. Sorry, I just have to plug in my laptop.
It's all good. I'll take a quick break with you now, Darcy, and we'll talk more about the real lifestyle of a teenager. Just hang on a second. We'll come right back to that. It's interesting that you're talking so real about this, which I love, because teenagers are just that. They're teenagers and they're real people. We'll come back to this topic right after this. Talking with Darcy Hodge here on the ice. The IHA program, the GM, you hold two hats basically, Darcy. One as a GM and one as a parent now. Tell me, a little bit about life as a parent and seeing it through the eyes of a parent, but then also realizing, wait a second, I'm also in charge of several different teams here with this program. How are you able to separate the two, and how does wearing both hats kind of help each other out?
I guess I got to go back a little bit for our conversation before. I was an academy parent.
Okay.
Okay, so both of my boys have graduated on. They've gone through the junior ranks. Both of them are done hockey. But I was, when I have my interviews with parents and families, I bring a lot of, I believe I bring a little extra knowledge to it because I was on the other side of the table sending my son away to live with another family in another city to go to play in this league that I knew very little about at the time. And that was back in 2011, 2012 season. And then when we moved our family to Calgary, I put my boy into, again, two different academies down here. And so I guess what I like to try and think what I bring to the table is what I would have liked to have seen when I was the parent and the deficiencies that I thought I saw. And at the same time, what was good about those programs that I'd like to continue along. So it's really helped me understand the kids a lot better, especially the ones that come from out of town. Would I understand what they're going through? The same things that I had my kids talk to me about, saying, "Hey, Dad, I'm away from my family, I'm away from my friends, and I'm bored today," or I'm when they're on the bus, you don't hear a lot of issues because that's when they're with their teammates, when they're with their comrades, they're bonding. It's when they're living in a house where they don't know the people and they need to try and figure out their idiosyncrasies. What does their house look like in comparison to what the home that they actually grew up in, and what the rules are? And then, so part of what I've had to do over the time also is talk to some of the billet parents and, kind of help them through the transition of bringing some of these kids in. We're fortunate, most of our billet kids that do come from out of Calgary, that do stay in the area, stay with other teammates. So it makes it a lot easier from a schedule standpoint. It makes it easier for everybody to go to the sports store to buy sticks or whatever it may be, as opposed to partially how we used to run with just billet families that used to take in a lot of our European kids. And it'd be like, hey, they're not taking me to go get my skate sharpened, or they wouldn't let me go over here. So there's being a parent allows me to talk to other parents that are coming into the program or that are coming into academy life. It doesn't matter if it's my program or any one of the other programs in the CSSHL, but it allows me to talk to them from a reality standpoint, not from a salesman standpoint. Everything that I can talk to them about are things that I saw, that I did, that my kids did, that my kids saw. And then over the last 4 years of being with IHA in a role of a general manager has only been for 1 year, but being a full-time function of IHA for the last 4 years, the changes that we've had to kind of implement over the time to make the program more, kind of family friendly and make everybody a little bit more concentrated as a family. As you mentioned earlier, dealing with teenage kids, it's not always, there's no manual with them, and not everything goes like you would like it to on the coach board. When you say F1 go here, F2 go here, sometimes they have their own ideas. We don't have a dorm system, so we can't put them under lock and key.
Right.
At the same time, like I tell a lot of the parents, I don't want them under lock and key. They're teenage boys. They got to learn. They got to do good, get rewarded. They got to make mistakes and pay some consequences. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what hockey program you're playing with. That's just growing up. But we do try our best to instill in them that they have to hold themselves to a higher level. And with the International Hockey Academy being out of Winsport, Hockey Canada's offices are there. We have high-level athletes. We got Olympic athletes. We got NHLers. We got pro football players, pro baseball players. They walk around that place all the time.
And like you said, it's all about a balance, a lifestyle created through, the love of a sport and the importance of balancing that management of getting academics. In our first segment, you mentioned the idea of it's a very small percentage of Canadian hockey players that are able to say that they're fortunate enough to make any type of salary. And when you talk about IHA, and I've talked to other schools that are involved in the CSSHL, quickly comment on the exposure that these players get. I mean, talk about teams and talk about players that come from smaller communities that may not have a chance to go to Penticton or up to Banff or to play in places in the United States that they wouldn't normally dream of going. And they get to see parts of North America playing a sport they love. As a student athlete at IHA, like those resources are almost priceless. Wouldn't you agree?
100%. And when we talk to families that are interested in the program, one of the biggest things that any and all of our academies sell is the exposure to the next level and the experience. Flat out, those two things. Now, the exposure when you play in the CSSHL, it's across Western Canada. If you were to play in the Alberta Major Midget League, basically you're getting exposure to Alberta junior teams. If you're fortunate enough to make it to the Max tournament, well, then maybe some other teams might see you. In our league, because we have stops in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, BC, Alberta, we are covered by Western Canada. With our new part of the league expanding out into the east, out into the Ontarios and Quebecs, you'll see a little bit more travel going over there, which now gives us cross-Canada exposure. As a scout for an Alberta Junior Hockey League team, I could tell you, with very, very little argument, the CSSHL leagues are the best leagues there are in Western Canada. And that's why, for most part, the best players are playing in our leagues. So now for a scout to venture out in a minus 25 snowstorm to go watch a typical Bantam AAA game or a midget 15 game or any one of the midget programs, U16, U17, U18.
That's September. We'll get a couple more months to go.
You still call it midget? We're not offended? Okay.
I'm calling it midget still till I absolutely have to. But anyway.
I appreciate that. So, but now that same scout, instead of going out to watch one kid, is going to go to a CSSHL game where he's going to watch 5 or 6 and make it worth his while. And yes, the The bus travel, it gets them prepared for the next level.
Yeah.
The studies, being away from a classroom a little bit more than maybe a typical, association player, gets them ready for whatever's coming in the future. And then, yeah, some of us will do states trips, and we try to, I know from an IHA perspective, we try to make them worthwhile. We don't go down into, the Phoenixes and just play in a tournament. That's a lot of fun, but it doesn't really give the boys that next level of showcase. So you go down into your Minnesotas, you go down into your New Jerseys, you play in that Boston area or the Detroit area, and you get exposure to other junior leagues. You get exposure to the Null or to the Napple or to the USHL, which you don't get up here. They don't have the resources to come up here and take kids. So if you go down there, all of a sudden your boys are now introduced to a whole other level of hockey in different leagues.
So Darcy, let me start asking you this question. For your job and your recruiting process, how, being affiliated with the CSSHL, say that 5 times fast, how does that help your program to be affiliated with that league in looking at potential players that are going to come to the IHA program or any other CSSHL program as being their next stepping stone compared to playing at home or, looking at other leagues?
It helps. It really does. The CSSHL has done such a great job since its inception to set themselves apart to become the best leagues around. We're fortunate enough that we have some very, very strong programs in our league that have had some really good success of moving kids on to the next levels. And by next levels with them, I mean they've gone from the juniors to the NCAAs or major juniors, and they're in the NHL. We've got a few alumni in and I don't know what the number is, but if you want to compare league by league with the amount of kids that play in our league versus some of the other leagues and the success that we've had, yeah, the best of the best really want a shot at playing in the league. I mean, it helps when you have guys like Matt Savoy or the Bedard boy out of West Van, who just got his special exemption. Well, would he have gotten that out of regular Bantam AAA hockey? Maybe, maybe not. We'll never know because he was playing in the CSSHL at the highest level as an underage. No different than what Matt was doing last year.
Right.
So when you start bringing those types of caliber of kids into your programs, it opens up a lot of eyes.
You talk about Matt being here and he got drafted. He was drafted number 1 overall. Being a player who's got a older sibling, as well, that's paving a way, so to speak. Connor Geekie, the second player taken overall in the WHL draft last year, who hails from Yellowhead area here in Manitoba. Both those players drafted by the same team are now setting up the future for a WHL squad here in Winnipeg. I mean, it only proves that, the success of players coming from either the CSSHL or their local teams prove dividends as long as they have a good work ethic and they have the opportunity presenting them. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Bedard's going to do next year. My last question for you, Darcy, is when it comes to promoting the program and getting the right people in the right places, what is IHA looking for their upcoming season and the teams you're working with just out of Calgary there?
Well, I think we're in search of what everybody is looking for, and what we're really after is kids that want to play the game of hockey. We set out some guidelines. Next year, we're always evolving our program, but it'll be a lot more on the kids next year to be prepared to be a better player. There's no use hiding behind anything. You can go on any stats page to find out the success of the International Hockey Academy over the last bunch of years, and it hasn't been that strong in our league. And every time we figure we got a team that can compete, everybody seems to be gets that much better that particular year. So what are we after? Yeah, we're after kids that want to work hard and can compete. Would we love to get a whole bunch of Bedard's or Savoys? Of course we would. But we're just I'm very honest and open about where we are and who we are and what we do. And what we're after is kids that just want to be here. We have to change culture across the board to become a stronger program. We did a lot better job this year off the ice, but now we need to do a much better job on the ice. And that's getting the kids that understand that if they don't put in the hard work, they're not going to get it. We need some. And this is one that I share with the parents. I'm going to get in a little bit of flack for it, but everybody is echoing it in their minds. We are a league that's top of the creme de la creme in Canada, but just because you play in the league doesn't make you a hockey player, and it doesn't make you somebody that's going to go on to the next level.
Right.
It's the adage of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So just as mom and dad put them into, the rinks or NAX or any other of our kind of pinnacle, doesn't mean that the kid is, in the end, going to come through. The ones that are going to come through, the ones that are going to have success in this sport particularly, are the ones that don't quit and are the ones that will continue to try and craft their skill away from the arena.
So we talked about the kids, the prospects of the kids. What about prospects when it comes to your coaching staff and the people, the men, the women, they're going to lead these young children to their next level?
So coaching in the CSSHL is a little bit different because, especially for our midget or our U18 prep team, it's a lot different into the fact that you can have the best coach in the world come and coach your kids. Again, if the kids themselves don't want to learn, if the kids themselves don't want to put in the effort, then it's kind of hard to make a team. So what we're looking for in our coaches are guys that are going to push the kids as hard as they can, not tiptoe around inadequate efforts, hold the kids accountable for having inadequate efforts, and at the same time, be able to go out there and promote the kids to the next level. It's something that a lot of people kind of forget, that unless they know that one scout or the one coach or the junior level, they don't really spend a lot of time outside of running the X's and O's of a practice and then standing on a bench telling the kids what they did good or did wrong. With our level, we need coaches that will push the kids, that will put the kids first, not themselves, and then turn around and promote the kids. And one thing with IHA that we are fairly proud of is the amount of kids, with the success we've had, the amount of kids that we have had move on to junior A hockey.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Getting in touch with you, Darcy, pretty simple.
Very simple. You can get our website is www.inthockey.ca, and I'm Darcy Hodge at inthockey.ca for my email.
Excellent. I mean, we're all in a situation right now where it's a little bit more quiet, different styles of recruiting. We talked off air with regards to your spring camps at the end of May with a back date potentially in June. All of that information, I'm sure, is available on your website. And getting in touch with you, like you said, super simple, easy peasy. I want to thank you for your time, Darcy. Is there any other thing you want to tell potential players, potential coaches about the IHA program that they may not be aware of?
Well, something that a lot of people, we did a name change here about 5 years ago, and a lot of people are still kind of unsure of who we are and stuff. We used to be a program called SISEC, the Swiss International Sports and Education Center, who actually was one of the founding associations of the CSSHL. Well, back when there was only 5 associations that started the program, we were actually one of them. So it is something that has, originally we were an all international team, hence the International Hockey Academy. Hockey Canada would not allow us to have any Canadians, and then they wouldn't let us have any Albertans, and then eventually about 4 years ago they opened it up, or 5 years ago they opened it up to where we could then be just a regular hockey program that could take kids from everywhere. Our facility, world-class facility, surrounded by world-class athletes, world-class doctors. Everything is right inside our facility. The best thing I can do with all prospects is give me a shout on my web, on the web, or on my email, and then come on down to WinSport. We'll tour around, show you around whenever we're allowed to get back in, and then we just kind of, again, as I would like to think, we talk open and honestly at the academy, and sometimes maybe I say a few things that I shouldn't about it, but it is what it is. There's no use hiding behind it.
No, absolutely. And like you said, WinSport's beautiful area, Calgary, fantastic. I mean, I've enjoyed every visit I've had there, and I can't say one bad word about it, to be honest with you. Darcy, thank you very much for taking the time today to talk with me and kind of open my eyes to another program that's involved in the CSSHL. I really appreciate it and look forward to the success and the eventual start of true recruitment and the next season, hopefully come the fall. Thank you very much, Darcy.
Theo, thank you very much.